Oh, hey, babe. How's it going? Did you finish up what you were working on? Oh, that's good. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, I'm just making a new character in the campaign I'm in. Yeah, the character didn't die, but he's kind of going through some stuff inside of a tree. Yeah, it's a long story, but we decided it would be a good time to try out a new character. It looks like a lot. Ah, no, I promise it's not as complicated as it looks. Hey, I've asked you this before, but it looks like you finished up whatever you were working on, so do you want to play with us next session? We can make a character for you now. I have the site open already. Please. Oh, I promise you'll enjoy it. It's so much fun. You will? Yay! You're the best, babe. Okay, so I think the best way to start with character creation is probably to either pick your race or your class. What do you kind of vibe with more? Your class? Awesome. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay. Yeah, so I know it's gonna be a lot, but we can try and keep it brief for like a lot of the classes. But first off is the Artificer. The Artificer is sort of a steampunk-esque wizard craftsman. Basically, you can make super cool magical gadgets and tools that are like really customizable. Artificers are spellcasters, but you can get more physical with them depending on how you build them. They're definitely on the higher end of complexity, I would say, just from the amount of stuff they can do, because they don't have just spells, but they also have like these things called artificer infusions. Oh, what are artificer infusions? Oh, they're just like, the gadgets I was mentioning earlier. They're kind of just like that. I don't want to discourage you from choosing it, because we can definitely make it work, but it might not be the best one to like start with. The next up, on the simpler side for sure, is the Barbarian. The name tells you most of what you need to know. You're a beefy guy that's really hard to kill, and you just smack things. Their main thing is their rage, which allows you to essentially hulk out for a bit. And while you're all raging, you're like super hard to kill. And the pop culture idea of them is like big, dumb, and just beefcakes. But you don't have to play them like that if you don't want to. Well, you do kind of have to be strong, but you get the point, I think. You don't have to be a total beefcake. There's nothing wrong with playing them like that, though. The standard isn't always bad. Ooh, but we have one of my personal favorites next. We have the Bard. Bards are like super customizable and have so much variation between the subclasses. But one thing that defines them all in all is their sheer riz. If you want to be a smooth talking, helpless romantic, this is definitely the class. Babe, have you ever seen those memes of a player like wanting to like romance the dragon? Yeah, that's the Bard. You see why I like them? Well, in fairness, I haven't tried to romance a dragon. But I have tried and succeeded to seduce a minotaur. Hey, babe, don't look at me like that. He was radiating pure, gruff, manly hotness. Stop! Oh my god, you weren't there. If you were, you would have wanted to get with him too. Do I remember his name? Of course, I would never forget the name of one of my lovers. His name was Duran, and he wielded 2 hand axes, which you could throw and like teleport to. So he was quite the badass. You jealous at all? Babe, I'm kidding. Obviously, you're much cuter than he is. Okay, we can move to the next one. Next, we got the Cleric. The A cleric is essentially like a battle priest. You devote yourself to a particular god and they bestow powers upon you. You know, there's a lot of memes about warlocks having sugar daddies, but I really think clerics fit that a little bit more. Is it the healing class? Yeah, kinda, but the cleric can do a lot more than just healing, but if it's easier for you to think of it that way, you can think of him as a healer for sure. The character I was working on when he actually came in was a cleric. Well, actually, he's a multi-class cleric bard. Oh, what's multi-classing? Oh, we don't need to cover that for your first character. It would just complicate it more. Essentially, it's just a way to like have multiple classes on a character, but you know, it's pretty complicated. Oh, next is actually a class I haven't played before, but one of my friends really loves them. That's the Druid. If you like the idea of transforming into animals and being able to summon animals to help you out, then Druid might be it. Yeah, they're actually pretty unique spellcasters and have a lot of cool, like, nature-based spells. Typically they're, like, very one with nature, so you don't just have a connection to animals, but plants too. Oh, and next is like the old reliable. It's the fighter. This is kind of the most standard like adventurer class. Think of it like Aragorn or like Geralt from The Witcher. You can choose from a bunch of different weapons, and you are just like really good with all of them. They have a really cool feature called Action Surge that essentially lets you take like 2 turns into combat. It's pretty sick. Yeah, most new players tend to start with fighter just because it's like one of the easiest ones to grasp while still being fun and like actually powerful. Why are they easier? Well, kind of the big thing is they don't have spells, so their gameplay is easy to understand. Of just like go to an enemy and just like fucking piece them up, you know. Speaking of piecing them off a bunch, we have the monk. If you sat listening to me talk about the fighter and were like, yeah, that's cool, but I want to like punch a bunch of shit like right in the face like an anime character, then this is that class. Monks do get like a few weapons you can pick from in fairness, but whenever I play one, I always just punch things. Their like main thing is they just get so many attacks. Like, just as you level up, you just attack just a fucking absurd amount. One of my favorite features is like fucking awesome. If someone fires a projectile at you, you can just catch it and throw it back at them. Yeah, that's not limited to just like even like an arrow, but it just says projectile. So like someone's cast like a firebolt on me, and I fucking like caught that bitch and threw it back. Like, it's so cool. Now, if you want to hit things, but like really, really like fucking hard, I present the paladin. Their whole thing is they get their power by making like a powerful binding oath. Oftentimes the stereotype is that they make this oath to like a god, but it can really be to anything or anyone. In combat, they have a thing called smite, which allows you to just hit, as I said, like absurdly hard. It's super cool. And if you're fighting like demons or undead, you hit even harder with your smite. Next up, we have the ranger. If you ever wanted to be like Legolas, this is definitely like the archetypal class for him. You're a really sick archer that also gets good at like tracking people and like beasts through like forests or like whatever terrain like you kind of want, honestly. You also get a few spells sprinkled in, not like super many. So if spells seem kind of like daunting, this could be a good one to like kind of just dip your toes into it. This class emphasizes a little bit of stealth. You don't necessarily have to, but it's like kind of there. And your whole thing is like mainly like you're hunting like your prey, like a predator, you know. Next is yet another classic, the rogue. The rogue is your archetypal like thief, assassin, your no good, edgy loner who is raised on the streets. I really like the rogue. It's one of my favorites. Their big thing is their sneak attack. Essentially, this like lets you do a whole lot of damage on one attack if like certain conditions are met. Yeah, it's like a little complicated, but I promise you, like in practice, it's like way simpler. Oh, now I'm gonna start sounding like a broken record because the next two classes are my absolute favorites. But first off, we have the sorcerer. They're full spellcasters, so you know, again, their spells seem like daunting, maybe not for you, but trust me, they're so cool. But the big thing about them is they have like an innate magical ability. So yeah, kind of like what we were talking about with like the cleric, where they have like a god that gives them their powers. Like in this case, they just kind of get it innately. Either like they're like born with it, or like something happens to them in their life, which like leads to them getting this magical power. And you can like choose where you get this magical ability stems from. Like maybe you have an ancestor who's like a dragon, so it's like a bloodline thing. Or maybe you had like an encounter with like an eldritch being that like left you scarred. But some of its magic was like left inside you from that like experience, and I love that one. The possibilities are like really, really endless. But now, for my beloved, the warlock. The warlock's whole deal is that in order to gain magical powers, you made like a pact with a magical being. This can range from like the classic devil, like a Faustian bargain type thing, or a god, and it goes all the way to like a lich or a vampire. This can lead to some really fun dynamics, because like your patron can take your powers away from you if you don't hold up your end of the pact. So if your patron needs you to do something like morally reprehensible, that could lead to some like inter-party conflict. That's always like a blast. Oh, babe, I can see you're getting tired, but don't worry. This is the last class, I promise. The wizard. Whereas the sorcerer gains their power innately, or the warlock makes like deals to get it. The wizard straight up puts their nose down. It just learns to do magic the old-fashioned way, just like hitting the books. They're super, super squishy at low levels, and they can feel like a little underpowered, but I promise once you start getting up there in the levels, they are crazy. If you see a group of enemies hold up, just cast a fireball at them, you know? Like, that's the classic wizard thing, just fireball, fireball. Yeah, they're definitely the Gandalf of D&D for sure. But that's all of them. I'm sorry, I know that was a lot. It's quite a big info dump. Are you leaning towards any of the classes at the moment? I know it's a lot to take in, so it's like cool if you're not and you still like want to look at them more. Oh, babe, you look so sleepy right now. It's kind of cute. You don't have to decide now. We can crawl in the bed. I know it's getting pretty late. That sounds good. Okay, let me go change and I'll meet you in bed. And thanks again, babe, for agreeing to play with us. I really appreciate it.